Can we create a new internet where search engines are irrelevant? If we were to design a brand new internet for today's world, can we develop it such a way that (1) finding information is trivial? 2. You don't need services indexing billions of pages to find any relevant document. In our current internet, we need a big brother like Google or Bing to effectively find any relevant information in exchange for sharing with them our search history, browsing habits, etc. Can we design a hypothetical alternate internet where search engines are not required? I think it would be helpful to remember to distinguish two separate search engine concepts here: indexing and ranking. Indexing isn't the source of problems. You can index in an objective manner. A new architecture for the web doesn't need to eliminate indexing. Ranking is where it gets controversial. When you rank, you pick winners and losers. Hopefully based on some useful metric, but the devil is in the details on that. The thing is, I don't think you can eliminate ranking. Whatever kind of sites you're seeking, you are starting with some information that identifies the set of sites that might be what you're looking for. That set might contain 10,000 sites, so you need a way to push the best ones to the top of the list. Even if you go with a different model than keywords, you still need ranking. Suppose you create a browsable hierarchy of categories instead. Within each category, there are still going to be multiple sites. So it seems to me the key issue isn't ranking and indexing, it's who controls the ranking and how it's defined. Any improved system is going to need an answer for how to do it. Some thoughts on the problem, not intended as a complete proposal or argument: indexing is expensive. If there's a shared public index, that'd make it a lot easier for people to try new ranking algorithms. Maybe the index can be built into the way the new internet works, like DNS or routing, so the cost is shared. How fast a ranking algorithm is depends on how the indexing is done. Is there some common set of features we could agree on that we'd want to build the shared index on? Any ranking that wants something not in the public index would need either a private index or a slow sequential crawl. Sometimes you could do a rough search using the public index and then re-rank by crawling the top N, so maybe the public index just needs to be good enough that some ranker can get the best result within the top 1000. Maybe the indexing servers execute the ranking algorithm? An equation or SQL-like thing, not something written in a Turing-complete language. Then they might be able to examine the query to figure out where else in the network to look, or where to give up because the score will be too low. Maybe the way things are organized and indexed is influenced by the ranking algorithms used. If indexing servers are constantly receiving queries that split a certain way, they can cache, index, shard on that. This might make deciding what goes into a shared index easier. How about open sourcing the ranking and then allowing people to customize it? I should be able to rank my own search results how I want to without much technical knowledge. I want to rank my results by what is most popular to my friends, Facebook or otherwise, so I just look for a search engine extension that allows me to do that. This could get complex but can also be simple if novices just use the most popular ranking algorithms. I wonder if indexing and ranking could be decentralized. Let's say we designed some data formats and protocols to exchange indexing and ranking information. Then maybe instead of getting a single Google, we could have a hierarchical system of indexers and rankers and some sort of consensus and trust algorithm to aggregate the information between them. Maybe offload indexing to the content providers altogether, i.e. if you want your website found, you need to maintain your own index. Maybe do a market on aggregator trust. If you don't like a particular result, the corresponding aggregator loses a bit of trust and its rankings become a bit less prominent. Spitballing here, what if instead of a monolithic page rank algorithm, you could combine individually maintained, open set rankings ? Edit . I mean to say you as the user would gain control over the ranking sources, the company operating this search service would perform the aggregation and effectively operate marketplace of ranking providers. And edit . For example, one could be an index of canonical sites for a given search term, such that it would return an extremely high ranking for the result news.ycombinator.com if someone searches the term Hacker News. Layer on a fraud ranking built off lists of sites and pages known for fraud, a basic old-school page rank, simply order by link credit, and some other filters. You could compose the global ranking dynamically based off weighted averages of the different ranked sets, and drill down to see what individual ones recommended. Seems hard to crunch in real time, but not sure. It'd certainly be nicer to have different orgs competing to maintain focused lists, rather than a gargantuan behemoth that doesn't have to respond to anyone. Maybe you could even channel ad or subscription revenue from the aggregator to the ranking agencies based off which results the user appeared to think were the best. Greater than when you rank, you pick winners and losers, To which people responded with various schemes for fair ranking systems. To which people observed that someone will always try to game the ranking systems. Yep. So long as somebody stands to profit, from artificially high rankings, they'll aim for that, and try to break the system. Those with more resources will be better able to game the system, and gain more resources. Ad nauseum. We'd end up right where we are. The only way to break that feedback loop is to disassociate profit from rank. Say it with me, we need a global, non-commercial network of networks and internet, if you will. Insert Al Gore reference here. Note, I don't have time to read all the comments on this page before my no procrast time's out, so please pardon me if somebody already said this. That's a very useful distinction. That brings me to a question. Are we sure that automating ranking in 2019, on the basis of publicly scrutinized algorithms, would bring us back to a pre-Google accuracy? Also, ranking on the basis of the sole query instead of the individual, would lead to much more neutral results. Absolutely spot on. I've been using DDG as my default search engine for a couple months. But Google has a huge profile on me. I find myself falling back to Google a few times a day when searching for technical terms/issues. Yes, it was called Yahoo and it did a good job of cataloging the internet when hundreds of sites were added per week, old enough to remember sorting sites by new to see what new URLs were being created, and getting to that bottom of that list within a few minutes. Google and search was a natural response to solving that problem as the number of sites added to the internet grew exponentially, meaning we need search. Directories are still useful. Archive of Our Own is a large example for fan fiction. Wikipedia has a full directory, Reddit wikis perform this function, awesome directories, or personal directories like mine at href.cool. The web is too big for a single large directory, but a network of small directories seems promising. Supported by link sharing sites like Pinboard and HN. I used Yahoo back in those days, and it literally proved the point that hand cataloging the internet wasn't tractable, at least not the way Yahoo tried to do it. There was just too much volume. It was wonderful to have things so carefully organized, but it took months for them to add sites. Their backlog was enormous. Their failure to keep up is basically what pushed people to an automated approach, i.e. the search engine. You don't have to go all the way back into Yahoo era when it comes to manually curated directories. Moz was actively maintained until quite recently, but ultimately given up for what seems like good reasons. I wonder if you could build a Yahoo/Google hybrid where you start with many trusted catalogs run by special interest groups, then index only those sites for search. Doesn't fully solve the centralization problem, but interesting nonetheless. Everyone has missed the most important aspect of search engines, from the point of view of their core function of information retrieval. They're the internet equivalent of a library index. Either you find a way to make information findable in a library without an index, how? Or you find a novel way to make a neutral search engine, one that provides as much value as Google but whose costs are paid in a different way, so that it does not have Google's incentives. The problem is that current search engines are indexing what is essentially a stack of random books thrown together by anonymous library goers. Before being able to guide readers to books, librarians have to the following non-trivial tasks over the entire collection: identify the book's theme, measure the quality of the information, determine authenticity, malicious content, remember the position of the book in the colossal stacks. Then the librarian can start to refer people to books. This problem was actually present in libraries before the revolutionary Dewey Decimal System. 1. Libraries found that the disorganization caused too much reliance on librarians and made it hard to train replacements if anything happened. The internet just solved the problem by building a better librarian rather than building a better library. Personally, I welcome any attempts to build a more organized internet. I don't think the communal bookpile approach is scaling very well. 1. I think heavy reliance on human language, and its ambiguity, is one of the main problems. Maybe personal whitelist/blacklist for domains and authors could improve things. Sort of web of trust but done properly. Not completely without search engines, but for example, if every website was responsible for maintaining its own index, we could effectively run our own search engines after initializing base trusted website lists. Let's say I'm new to this new internet. I ask around what are some good websites for information I'm interested in. My friend tells me Wikipedia is good for general information, WebMD for health queries, Stack Overflow for programming questions, and so on. I add wikipedia.org/searchindex, webdom.com/searchindex and stackoverflow.com/searchindex to my personal search engine instance, and every time I search something, these three are queried. This could be improved. With local cache, synonyms, etc. As you carry on using it, you expand your library. Of course, it would increase workload of individual resources, but has potential to give feel of that Web 1.0 once again. So long as there is a mechanism for categorizing information and ranking the results, people will try to game the mechanism to get the top spot regardless of your own incentives. Despite their incentives to make money, Google have actually been trying for years to stop people from gaming the system. It's impressive how far they've been able to come, but their efforts are thwarted at every turn thanks to the big budgets employed to get traffic to commercial websites. The only assured way to have a neutral search engine is to run your own spiders and indexes, which you understand completely. Neutral in that sense is only not serving the agenda or judgment of another at the obvious cost of labor, and not just as a one-off thing as the searched content often attempts to optimize for views. It isn't like a library of passive books to sort through, but a Harry Potter wizard portrait gallery full of jealous media vying for attention. And pendantly, it isn't true neutral, but serves your agenda to the best of your ability. A true neutral would serve all to the best of their ability. Besides, neutrality in a search engine on a literal level is oxymoronic and self-defeating. Its whole function is to prioritize content in the first place. A few years ago there was that blogs thing, with RSS. All things that favored federation, independent content generation, etc. Now it's all about platforms. I understand that regular people are more comfortable with Facebook, but, other than that, why are blogs and forums less popular now? A search engine is more like putting the books in a paper shredder and writing the book title on every piece, then ordering the Pisces by whatever words you can find on it, putting all pieces that has the word hacker on it in the same box. Whereas the problem becomes how you sort the pieces. Want to find a book about hacking? This box has all the shreds that has the word hacker on it, you can find the book title on the back of the piece. Second problem becomes how relevant the word is to the book. The library index only indexes the information that fits on a card catalog card. That's extremely unlike a web search engine. If you'd like to see an experimental discovery interface for a library that goes deeper into book contents, check out, not very mobile friendly. Not surprisingly, this book thingy is a big centralized service, like a web search engine. Maybe crowdsourcing would be a solution, something similar to at-home project, only for web indexes/cache, maybe even leverage the browsers via plugin for web scraping. It already kind of works for Getpocket. I don't think it would be an issue if Google wasn't creating special rules for specific winners and losers, overall. Hell, I really wish they'd make it easy to individually exclude certain domains from results. The canonical example to me of something to exclude would be the Experts Exchange site. After Stack Overflow, it was more than useless, and even before it was just annoying. There are lots of sites with paywalls, and other obfuscations to content, and these sites are the ones that should be dropped/low ranked. But the fact that there's no autocomplete for Hillary Clinton is vertical bar has, though Donald Trump is also filtered. Yes, it's been heavily gamed. It's also had active meddling. And their control over YouTube seems to be even worse, with disclosed documents/video that indicate they're willing to go so far as outright election manipulation. With all indications that Facebook, Pinterest and others are going the same route. Greater than, or you find a novel way to make a neutral search engine just because nobody's said it in this thread yet. Blockchain? I never bought into the whole Bitcoin buzz, but using a blockchain as an internet index could be interesting. I think Apple's current approach, where all the smarts, machine learning, differential privacy, secure enclave, etc., reside on your device, not in the cloud, is the most promising. As imagined in so much sci-fi, e.g. the Hosaka in Neuromancer, you build a relationship with your device which gets to know you, your habits and, most importantly in regard to search, what you mean when you search for something and what results are most likely to be relevant to you. An on-device search agent could potentially be the best solution because this very personal and, crucially, private device will know much more about you than you are, or should be, willing to forfeit to the cloud providers whose business is, ultimately, to make money off your data. Greater than, where all the smarts reside on your device, not in the cloud, is the most promising. An on-device search agent could potentially be the best solution. Maybe I misunderstand your proposal, but to me, this is not technically possible. We can think of a modern search engine as a process that reduces a raw dataset of exabytes 0 into a comprehensible result of 5,000 bytes, i.e. 5K being the first page of search result rendered as HTML. Yes, one can take a version of the movies and TV data on IMDb.com and put it on the phone, for example like copying the old Microsoft Cinemania CDs to the smartphone storage and having a locally installed app search it, but that's not possible for a generalized dataset representing the gigantic internet. If you don't intend for the exabytes of the search index to be stored on your smartphone, what exactly is the on-device search agent doing? How is it iterating through the vast dataset over a slow cellular connection? 0. Or even an online search engine that was configurable where you could customize the search engine and assign custom weights to different aspects. I'd love to be able to configure rules like +2 wait for clean HTML sites with minimal JavaScript. +5 wait for edu sites. -10 wait for documents longer than 2 pages. -5 wait for wordy documents. I'd also like to increase the wait for hits on a list of known high-quality sites. Either a list I maintain myself, or one from an independent third party. Once upon a time I tried to use Google's custom search engine builder with only hand-curated high-quality sites as my main search engine. It was too much trouble to be practical, but I think that could change with an actual tool. I remember hearing something about differential privacy from a WWDC keynote a few years back, however I haven't heard much lately. Can you say how and where Apple is currently using differential privacy / I see a lot of good comments here. I got inspired to write this. What if this new internet, instead of using URI based on ownership, domains that belong to someone, would rely on topic? In examples: nev2://speakers/reviews/bw, nev2://news/anti-Trump, nev2://news/pro-Trump, nev2://computer/engineering/react/I like it, nev2://computer/engineering/electron/I don't like it. A publisher of web page, same HTML/HTTP, would push their content to these new domains, and people could easily access list of resources, pub/sub like. Advertisements are driving internet nowadays, so to keep everyone happy, what if Nev2 is neutral, but web browser or not, which is the case now anyway? You can imagine that some browsers would prioritize some entries in given topic, some would be neutral, but harder to retrieve data that you want. Second thought, guess what? I'm reinventing NNTP Smile. Inventing/extending a new NNTP is nice idea too. The internet has become synonymous with the web/HTTP protocol. The web alternatives to NNTP1 instead of newer versions of Usenet. New versions of IRC, UART, S/FTP, SMTP, etc., instead of webifying everything would be nice. But those services are still there and fill an important niche for those not interested in seeing everything eternal Septembered. Another inspiration, DNS for searching. What if we implement DNS-like protocol for searching? Think of recursive DNS. Do you have articles about pistachio-colored USB-C chargers? Home router says nope, ISP says nope, Cloudflare says nope, let's scan A to Z, eventually someone gives an answer. This of course must be cached, just like DNS. And just like DNS, it can be influenced by your not-so-neutral browser or ISP. How would topic validity get enforced? For example, if a publisher has a particular pro-Trump article, they would likely want, for obvious financial reasons, to push it to both ev2://news/anti-Trump and nev2://news/pro-Trump. What would prevent them from doing that? Also, a publisher of Get Rich Quick Now article would want to push it to both nev2://news/anti-Trump and nev2://computer/engineering/electron/I don't like it topics. You can't simply have topics, you can have communities like news/pro-Trump that are willing to spend the labor required for moderation, i.e. something like Reddit. But not all content has such communities willing and able to do so well. I like this idea of people dreaming about a new internet. The idea of moving to a pub/sub-like system is a good one. It makes a lot of sense for what the internet has become. It's more than simple document retrieval today. That was what the early internet was like, I was there. People built indexes by hand, lists of pages on certain topics. There was the Gopher protocol that was supposed to help with finding things. But this was all top-down stuff. The first indexing/crawling search engines were bottom-up and it worked so much better. And for a while we had an ecosystem of different search engines until Google came along, was genuinely miles better than everything else, and wiped everything else out. Really, search isn't the problem, it's the way that search has become tied to advertising and tracking that's the problem. But then DuckDuckGo is there if you want to avoid all that. In the very early days, you didn't need a search engine because there weren't that many websites and you knew most of the main ones anyway, or later on had them in your own hotlists in Mosaic. Nowadays you need a search because there is so much content. The problem is that the amount of content and the size of the potential user base are so large that it is impossible to offer search as a free service, i.e. it has to be funded in some way. Perhaps instead of having a free advertising-driven search, there would be space for a subscription-based model? Subscription-based and advert-free models seem to be working in other areas, for example TV/films and music. Another problem though is that more and more content seems to be becoming unsearchable, for example behind walled gardens or inside apps. Search is the problem. If you don't rank in Google you don't exist on the internet. There is an entire economy built on manipulating search that is pay to play, in addition to Google continually focusing on paid search of natural SERPs. Controlling search right now is controlling the internet. I think in one sense the answer is it always depends who or what you are asking for your answers. The early web wrestled with this. Early on it was going to be directories and meta keywords. But that quickly broke down. Information isn't hierarchical, meta keywords can be gamed. Google rose up because they use a sort of reputation system-based index. In between that, there was a company called Real Names that tried to replace domains and search with their authoritative naming of things, but that is obviously too centralized. But back to Google, they now promote using schema.org descriptions of pages, of a page text, as do other major search engines. This has tremendous implications for precise content definition. A page that is not about fish won't show up in a search result for fish. Google layers it with their reputation system, but these schemas are an important, open feature, available to anyone to more accurately map the web. Schema.org is based on linked data, its principle being each piece of data can be precisely followed. Each schema definition is crafted by participation from industry and interest groups to generally reflect its domain. This open world model is much more suitable to the web, compared to the closed world of a particular database, but some companies, like Amazon and Facebook, don't adhere to it since apparently they would rather their worlds have control. Witness Facebook's open graph degeneration to something that is purely self-serving. The deeper problem is advertising. It is sort of a prisoner's dilemma. All commercial entities have a shouting contest to attract customer attention. It's expensive for everybody. If we could kill advertisement permanently, we can have an internet as described in the question. This will almost be like an emergent feature of the internet. We could supercharge word of mouth. I've been thinking about an alternative upvote model where content is ranked not primarily based on aggregate voting but by ranking content that users you have upvoted higher. Ranking content that users with similar upvote behavior higher. While there is a risk of upvote bubbles, it should potentially make it easier for niche content to spread to interested people and make it possible for products and services to spread using peer trust rather than cold shouting. Maybe if IPFS, Web 3.0, succeeds in the future, you could solve the advertising problem by inventing a meta network, where all the sites involved would agree to follow certain standardized criteria of site purity. You tag the nodes, or sites, and then have an option to search only sites from the pure network. Just a thought. Edit. Maybe this would lead to a growing interest in the site purity, and as the network's popularity would grow, you could monetize the difference to its advance. If we kill advertisement, you can say goodbye to the vast majority of content on the internet. The better approach is to make advertising a better experience and to create incentives for advertisers to spend ad dollars on quality content. To kill advertising would mean the web would live behind many walled gardens where each site requires membership. For the remaining free sites, you will see advertising in different forms: self-promotion blog, the upsell, t-shirt stores on every site, spam bait. Advertising saved the internet. Now tracking. For advertising or other purposes is the real problem. Other than a completely new approach for producing value such as the freeism one described in the article suggested in this comment, which I hadn't time to read yet and hence I'm neither in favor of or against, this simply boils down to the questions of who will pay for relevant content and what the business model will be. By and large, people don't seem to be willing to pay for content on the web. Hence, advertising became the dominant business model for content on the web. Find another way for someone to pay for relevant content and you can do away with advertising. It's as simple as that. Promotion is a need, and a very important need for ideas to spread. We all know that the concept of if you build it they will come doesn't work. Google's adaptation for this was to make advertising relevant, which is actually a considerable improvement over historical media models. There's a saying in sales, people hate to be sold, but they love to buy, which is akin to what you are saying here. Advertising isn't the problem. The problem is that the reasons why people are promoting aren't novel enough. Rent-seeking, which creates noise. The only way to kill advertising is to have perfectly efficient markets. Until then, you're going to have demand for ferrying information between sellers and buyers, and vice versa, because of information asymmetry. You may disagree with some of the mediums currently used, finding them annoying, but advertising is always evolving to solve this problem, as is evident in the last 3 decades.
Hey guys, this is the Rogue YouTuber here. I recently had a big change in my life. I had a baby daughter. Here she is. If you could do me a favor and remember to hit the subscribe button and bang the bell, I'm hoping to really create a YouTube channel that really gets people excited and brings people the best, most interesting content collated from across the internet. I'm saving up to save my little girl to Carnegie Mellon Computer Science Department. So please remember to like and subscribe. See you next time.